Defense lawyers for media mogul and Hong Kong democracy activist Jimmy Lai began their closing arguments this week as his drawn-out national security trial nears its end. A devout Catholic convert and staunch critic of the Chinese Communist Party, Lai has been largely in solitary confinement since his arrest in 2020. His national security trial began in 2023 over 3 charges of sedition and collusion with foreign countries over his support for Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement. He has pleaded not guilty. His trial has faced numerous delays over the 77-year-old's failing health, but despite his heart troubles, Lai continued to show up to his trial. Lai's son, Sebastian, spoke to the world over with Raymond Arroyo this week of his father's strong Catholic faith and courage during his testimony.
At the end of the exchange, my father essentially said, look, in the end day, the truth will come out in the kingdom of God. And that is good enough for me. And I think that is such a strong phrase because this is a man who sacrificed everything that he has to stand up for his belief and his principles and his journalists.
No date is set for a final verdict, which could result in a life sentence for Lai. Many see the case as a show trial with little confidence that the Chinese government would allow him to walk free. And joining us now is one of the most prominent and vocal advocates for Jimmy Lai, Catholic Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey. Representative Smith chairs the Congressional Executive Commission on China and has nominated Jimmy Lai for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times. Congressman, thank you so much for being here to discuss this case.
Thank you, Catherine. And thanks for bringing a focus on this amazing man and his son, Sebastian. I had him testify at a hearing 2 years ago. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. He is such a good man, very devout Catholic, and he's being persecuted by the president, by the Secretary General of China.
You've had
Xi Jinping.
You've had 106 hearings on China alone. That being said, you know China well, and Hong Kong and Chinese authorities say Jimmy Lai is being given a fair trial. Your response to that?
It's absolutely untrue. I mean, they've taken a law called the National Security Law, and it's you and I talking right now would land both you and I in prison with life imprisonment. That's how bad it is. Anything that looks like it's an opposition to what the Chinese Communist Party wants in Hong Kong or on mainland China, you can be prosecuted to the nth degree. It is the most draconian law I have ever seen. And, one of the charges that Jimmy Lai, that the prosecution has brought, has called for sanctioning individuals. I wrote the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. We introduced it in 2014. Several years later, it passed, became law. Marco Rubio did it on the Senate side. It's a great law. And we're the ones, members of Congress, who said we want to sanction, using Magnitsky-type sanctions, those who are just horribly mistreating the Hong Kongers who deserve better than this. They deserve democracy. And again, Jimmy Lai is paying for all of this tremendous advocacy for human rights and religious freedom and free speech with his life.
And his health is deteriorating.
Yes, it is.
77 years old, he's diabetic, he's in solitary confinement. Given his condition, how urgent is it that he be freed?
It's totally urgent. I'm very glad that the President Trump, again, has called for his release. I hope that in the meetings with the Chinese high officials, including Xi Jinping, that it's being made a centerpiece issue, because this, how you treat, the people like Jimmy Lai, it sets a standard for how they either mistreat or treat other people. So this is really, really important. And again, the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, we call on them to award it to him and a few others that we put into our letter. And they did do it years ago to Liu Xiaobo, you might recall. He got the Nobel Peace Prize. But again, the Chinese dictatorship wouldn't even let him travel or his wife to the awarding of that very prestigious award. But he deserves it.
You mentioned President Trump. He said he would do everything that he could to
100%.
To free Jimmy Lai. What specific actions do you want to see from the White House?
Well, I think, there needs to be a sanctioning of individuals who are a part of this. We have conveyed all of the authority as Congress to the President and to the Secretary of State to do just that. Hold these people to accountable, make their work economically as well as the obtaining of visas to come here absolutely something that doesn't happen. And if we hit them economically, because they're an exporting country, if China can't export, and which is why his tariffs initiative is so important, that economy implodes. That's how they survive. They steal through intellectual property right theft, all of the copyrights and all the rest of it, patents, to mirror what we do, technologically speaking, and that's a whole other issue. But then the money that they glean from all of this exporting, all those products coming here, buoys this dictatorship and does so with impunity.
Can you underscore Jimmy Lai's pro-democracy activism?
Sure.
We might take that for granted here in the United States.
Yeah, he ran Apple News, a tremendous newspaper, totally dedicated to truth, of just being a what our newspapers here should be, and sometimes are not. Well, you are. EWTN really speaks truth to power. That's what he was doing in Hong Kong, despite threats. He had the ability to flee. He didn't do it. He stayed because he's so committed to his fellow Hong Kongers and to human rights in general, religious freedom and free speech. So, I mean, here's a man who should be prized and celebrated, and the people of Hong Kong would celebrate him. But unfortunately, the dictatorship sees this as a threat, like they see every other person who speaks out with boldness, and he speaks with such boldness.
He's a convert to Catholicism.
Yes, he is.
He said that his faith has been a motivating force for him through this. Do you see religious freedom as an element in this trial?
Without a doubt. Xi Jinping, he has taken the repression of all faiths to new, lower levels. He calls it synodization, where everything, including Catholic believers and everyone else, needs to comport with his Marxist ideology. They're rewriting the Bible. They are, they were picking our as a Catholic Church, they were picking who the bishops were, with veto power being vested in the Vatican. I mean, an absurd agreement, I thought, but that's another topic for another day. But religious freedom is under a vicious assault in China. And not to forget, in Xinjiang, where there are large numbers of Muslims and Uyghurs, they're committing genocide against them, they being Xi Jinping. And I have read his statements where he says, show no mercy. You either, again, conform to the Chinese Communist Party principles, or you die, or you go to a concentration camp for very long periods of time.
Congressman Chris Smith, thank you for bringing a light to this, for your work on this, and for coming here today.
Thank you. And we are looking to name a street after Jimmy Lai. We got a bill in, it's bipartisan. I'm the sponsor of it, and we hope that will happen as well.
Continue to bring attention to this case.
Exactly.
Congressman, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.